Welcome to Aspire, and I Have the Right To podcast. I'm Katie Shipp, Executive Director at I Have the Right To.
And I'm Chessy Prout, co-founder of I Have the Right To. Today's episode is really special for me. I'm honored to be in conversation with someone I met years ago, early in both of our journeys as survivors and advocates. Jean Ruggiero has been using her voice to speak out against sexual violence since high school, and I've admired her courage and compassion ever since.
Jean has shared her story through powerful public speaking, working with organizations like PAVE, and connecting with students, survivors, and communities across the country. She's currently earning her master's in social work and preparing to support survivors in therapeutic spaces.
She's also the author of a beautiful children's book called Healing Your Boo Boo, which tells the story of a young girl navigating grief and healing through her relationship with her dog. The story is tender, honest, and deeply empowering for kids and adults alike.
Jean and her dog Boo Boo are now a therapy team, visiting children and helping others heal through the power of empathy, trust, and love. Today we're talking about storytelling, trauma, and recovery, plus the healing power of animals and the importance of boundaries both for kids and the grown-ups who care for them.
Jean, welcome. It's so good to be in conversation with you again.
Thank you for having Boo Boo and I. We're really excited to be here.
Now, we'd love to start by talking a little bit about your journey. What inspired you to start speaking out about your own experience as a survivor?
So when I was in high school, so when I was 16 years old, so it's crazy to think because now it's been almost 10 years. So I met Chessy almost 10 years ago. So being able to share my story now still feels as empowering as it did then. But when I was in high school, I was sexually assaulted by somebody that I was dating at the time. And I didn't really feel protected by my high school. When I reported my assault to the police, they made it feel like it was my fault. I didn't feel like I really had support from my high school. When I told them, they still had me in classes with him. They still had me seeing him. And it led to a lot of mental health issues and a lot of depression and anxiety. And at that time, I didn't really know where to turn to. I just needed a support network, and I didn't want to feel alone like I did because the entire survivor journey can just feel so alone. And so I found an organization which was called PAVE, and through PAVE, I reached out to Angela, and Angela, for the first time, connected me with another survivor whose name is Delaney Henderson. And when I talked to Delaney for the first time, I remember that she said to me, from this moment on, you will never feel alone on your journey again. And I think that's just something so powerful to stress to other survivors, that the moment you start telling your story, the moment you start reaching out and finding that there's a survivor community, you won't feel alone in your journey again, because so many people go through what you're going through and use their strength to help other people. And I want to be somebody that can use my strength to continue to help other people.
And I love that we're both kind of a testament to the love and compassion and hard work that Angela Rose has been doing for so many years, and that Delaney has done. Delaney was also one of the first survivors that I spoke to, who was there for me through so much of the harrowing beginning of my journey as a survivor, especially entering the public eye. So it's really, really awesome to hear you talk about the power of meeting other survivors and talking with other survivors. And I remember when we first met, doing work with PAVE, it was just such an empowering moment to be able to be around somebody else who kind of understands. No one experience is the same, but we all have this blanket understanding of that sort of need for support and love that I feel like we try to give one another. But of course, as a survivor, that's not our entire identity, and unfortunately, it's not also the biggest trauma, or not, maybe not the biggest, but it's not the only trauma that we go through in our lives. And I know you've written about, and part of what your book is about right now is dealing with loss in another way. Would you be able to talk and share a bit about how you decided to frame this book in a way that was, appropriate for kids, and share a little bit more about your journey?
Yeah. So my book, which is called Healing Your Boo Boo, so this book came at a tough time in my life. So about 3.5 years ago, I unexpectedly lost my dad to colon cancer. So we found out about a month before he died. So just after I lost my dad, I just had this immense feeling of sadness, and I just didn't know what to do with that sadness. And so I started going to this pet store that was down the street from me, and they had like little visiting hours with the dogs. And somebody came up to me one day and they're like, "Do you want to meet this little dog?" And handed him over to me. And the second that I looked into his eyes, I just knew that my journey with him would be impactful, in that I could help other people with him. So I got Boo Boo about a week later because I, wanted to make sure I was making the best decision. So I came back a week later, and I knew, and I was crying because I missed my dad so much, and I knew that Boo Boo would be a part of that story. So I took Boo Boo home, and within a month or two, I decided that my purpose was to help other people, but with him, because I saw how happy that he made me and how much better that he made me feel. So I signed up to go to school to be a social worker, and I go to Quinnipiac University, which is in Hamden, Connecticut. And through that, I've been working with another nonprofit, which is called Soul Friends. And through Soul Friends, Boo Boo and I go into all of the Wallingford public schools in Connecticut, and we run group therapy, and we also take individual clients. So now I really get to see it full circle. I get to see it firsthand, that I was a survivor and I was reaching out to a community, but now I have survivors that Boo Boo and I work with together. And to be able to help survivors and to make them feel comfortable in their hardest part, when they have to rapport or when they want to come forward to someone, and just seeing how much more comfortable people feel with Boo Boo there, and how much more likely they are to tell me their story and reach out and feel comfortable. It's just been really empowering to see that, and to be able to integrate animals into therapy sessions. And it's just been a really good journey doing that.
That's so powerful and so beautiful. I actually, last night before went to bed, I was reading your book to my daughter, who is 4, and she absolutely loved it. And she was looking at all the photos and the stories. And so I'd love for you to share with our listeners just a little bit about your book and the story that your book follows, for those who haven't had the chance to read it yet, because it really is so beautiful, and it applies to kids who have gone through many different types of trauma, right? Whether it is trauma like sexual assault or trauma that comes from grief. And it's really such a beautiful, powerful story. So I'd love for you to just share what was your inspiration for writing the book, and also, a little bit about the process of writing the book and what it's been like, since it was published.
So with the book, for one of my final projects for my MSW degree at Quinnipiac, we have a capstone project. So my idea for my capstone project was to create this book. It's always been my goal in life to be an author and to help other people with my writing. I've been very passionate about writing. So when I first created this book, I really wasn't sure at all how to create it or what to do. So I asked a lot of people, my professors. So I ended up creating most of this book myself on Canva. And then I took my camera and I would take the pictures of Boo Boo when we were out, when I was babysitting, when I was with kids working on therapy. I really wanted the book to show some real life examples and have actual pictures so people could really envision the work that Boo Boo and I are doing. And so the book starts with me feeling sad over the loss of my dad, and then getting Boo Boo, and then it goes into the adventures that Boo Boo and I go on together. We go skateboarding together, we go to different hikes together and watch waterfalls. And then the book also takes a turn where I want to show healing full cycle. So Boo Boo also had a trauma that he went through a couple of years ago, where he was attacked by a large dog when we were on a walk together. And this was very traumatic for Boo Boo, and I saw how PTSD could even affect a dog, and how he felt scared going on the walks after, how he didn't really want to be around other dogs. Like, even around big dogs now, he gets scared. So Boo Boo and I worked together on both of our healings. So I took him to meet new friends at the dog park. I took him on other walks. I just made sure that he felt comfortable again after that trauma, which is something that I want survivors, people who are going through trauma, to always have that kind of support, to know this is the kind of steps that you can take towards your healing. And then Boo Boo and I, it goes into how I, started to go to school and how I came up with this idea to be a social worker. And then it shows the actual real life work of what I've done as a social worker and what we do at the schools. One of Boo Boo's and I's favorite thing to do with kids that we go to the schools with is art projects. So we have a paw stamp that we have out, and Boo Boo signs for the kids, and then they make a picture around it. And I also highlight that in the book. So at the end of the book, I have a picture of the art project and an example, so that any school or anywhere that I go, we can also do that art project. And it's been really powerful to see what the kids turn the paw prints into and use their imagination for. And so yeah, the whole book journey has been really positive. And this summer I've had over 10 signings and events. We were on WTNH News, and we're going to be doing more events this summer. And it's just really empowering when I do these events and kids or people come there and they can relate to the story and they tell me about their own trauma and how animals have really helped them in the process of their healing.
Animals are so special. I always say I have 3 dogs and a cat, which is, I feel like some people think is crazy, but they really are so healing. And some of the toughest times in my life, I've just laid down beside my dog and just pet them and snuggle with them. And they really do have that ability to make you feel better, and you're their safe place too. And it's really such a beautiful relationship. And I always wanted my kids to grow up with animals so that they could understand what it feels like to be close to an animal and to take care of an animal. And it really can be such an important part of a healing journey. And I think your book is so powerful in that way. And my daughter, I think, also really loved the fact that it was real pictures. She got to see you and Boo Boo, not just on the front, it's more cartoonish, but in the actual book, it's pictures of you and everyday life. And she loved that. And at the end, she felt like she knew you. She actually made me record a little video that I'll have to share with you at the end of the recording. But it really is such a beautiful, beautiful book.
But yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Just seeing kids' happiness and smiles when they read the book, and Boo Boo's big smile when they meet him. And it's been really empowering, and I'm really grateful that I have this experience and journey with him to be able to do.
And it's really cool too, the way that you show in the book and what you just spoke about Boo Boo's own experience, the way that you show the healer, you, or the dog, the healer, turn into somebody that needs, or some animal. I call my dog a human little boy anyways, but turn into something that needs healing themselves. And I think that's such a powerful representation of the way that, can rely on animals, but of course, our pets rely on us. Um, was it almost immediate when you saw Boo Boo, and the week that you decided to take him home, that you realized that you guys could do this, that you wanted to share your healing journey with other people and share the gift that Boo Boo had given you with other people? Or was there a little bit of a period where, you might have, or what was your thought process in sharing Boo Boo with the world?
I think when I met him, I knew right away. I didn't know I would make a book or share him with everyone, but I just knew that he was going to be a part of my healing journey. And this is my first dog. I've never had a dog before. So that was really exciting too. And also at the time, honestly, I didn't have the money for him. So that was one of my other struggles with thinking that week. But I just knew, I'm I have to figure out a way. He's coming home with me. This, I love him, and our journey is going to begin together. And I just knew at that point, I guess. When the first time I looked at him, I couldn't stop thinking about him that entire week, and I just did everything I could to be able to bring him home.
Yeah, and I mean, you've met my dog, JJ, when he
Yeah.
was a puppy, and I was used my writing time when I was writing my memoir with Jane Abelson. Every time that it would get kind of too tough, I would start looking at photos of dogs online, and that's kind of how I found JJ in the first place. And this, the day that we turned in the manuscript was the day that I picked JJ up and brought him home. And in the first year of having JJ, it was super overwhelming. Taking care of an animal is a huge responsibility. There's so much that you've got to do for their health, for their not just baseline health, but you want to give them a good life and stuff like that. But it was so pivotal to me to have a dog to take care of, because for a long time I didn't even think I was capable of even taking care of myself. I had been struggling so much with, feelings of guilt and shame in the aftermath of my assault, and then the going to college and normal teenage, like, and then young adult stuff was really overwhelming. But knowing that I could take care of another living being, made me feel so much more confident in my own ability as well, to be like a successful person. So I know firsthand, all of the things that a dog can do for you, and also how much work it can be and the expense it is as well. Hi, Boo
Oh,
Boo.
oh, oh, Boo Boo has something to say.
Oh my gosh. He's like, we're not that much work.
I was going to say, he really is responding what you had to say there, Chessy.
Yes. Yes. He's trying to.
She
I
did.
know.
He
I
did.
know.
He did.
Oh my
So
gosh.
there was a part in your story that you had mentioned where Boo Boo was attacked, and the role reversal, how you became the healer. And it really is such a moving part of your book. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were hoping kids would learn from that moment when they're reading your book?
So I want to be able to explain post-traumatic stress disorder to kids through that. So showing how Boo Boo was scared of the other dogs after, and showing the things that I did to help him feel more comfortable. That really helped, because I want to show in a way that kids understand what post-traumatic stress disorder is and can look like. So the same symptoms that are shown in Boo Boo, with him being afraid to, walk somewhere, afraid of bigger dogs, is the same way that PTSD could appear in a human. So I think it's a good example to show them too, post-traumatic stress disorder, and how I went through that, and how Boo Boo went through that, and how together we use that journey to help other people.
That's so amazing. And, now that you and Boo Boo go and help people in a professional manner, it's important to recognize how much therapy dogs can play such a unique role in emotional healing, especially for kids, I feel like. Is there anything that you've seen or experienced firsthand when Boo Boo is around kids that are struggling? Is there a way that he helps them specifically, or any experiences you can share?
I think so. Something that we call bilateral stimulation is petting the dog back and forth. So when somebody's in a heightened state, and when they feel anxious, depressed, or having a panic attack, to be able to do something and back and forth is really relaxing to them. So just having that in a therapy session, where they could just pet Boo Boo while they're talking to me about hard things, or be able to train Boo Boo and be able to have him do tricks for them, or just show them that they are capable of having, training Boo Boo, and just I have them take Boo Boo outside for a walk. We do chalk out work outside. We'll draw a picture of a world and say what's the center of your world, and then we compare what's the center of Boo Boo's world. And just being able to do these very creative projects with the kids and having Boo Boo there, I just feel like it makes all the difference. Before I had Boo Boo, I never realized how much more comfortable people feel with an animal and reaching out. And I think what Chessy said earlier also was a really good point. When somebody's going through something like anxiety or depression after an assault, after trauma, we don't really think to take care of ourselves because we feel so many emotions inside of us. But when you have an animal, it's like you're almost forced to get up, get out of bed, take them for a walk, feed them, and it gets you in that routine that could really help you when you are in such a depression state and you don't want to go out or do anything.
I was thinking about how, sometimes when you're going through something really difficult, the people around you want to fix it for you, or they have the pressure to, like, they want to know what to say or what to do, and they want to talk about it. But sometimes when you're really going through something, sometimes you just need quiet. And that's something that's really beautiful about animals, is that they can just sit with you in the quiet, and they don't have that ability, but also the need to like fill the silence. Like, you can just be silent with them, and it's something that they can uniquely provide, just that sitting together in silence and providing that comfort. And so I was just wondering if there's other things that you think that animals, especially dogs, how they can help children process trauma in a way that even the adults around them can't. Something that's uniquely able to be provided through like therapy involving animals.
Um, so I've worked with all different types of animals also. So we also at Soul Friends work with horses, rabbits, cats. So I've seen the full spectrum of how animals really can impact us and help us. And I think a really good point with that is boundaries. Kids learning when it's okay to pet the dog, asking me, is it okay if I pet him? Is it okay if I give him a treat? And that's teaching kids at an early age consent and boundaries as well. So I think that's also something really important that kids learn through animals.
Yeah, definitely. Just being able to sort of learn through taking care of them.
It's really great to hear you talk about the ways that interacting with animals has helped kids learn about consent and body autonomy, which is something that we focus on a lot in our work at I Have the Right To, and try to impart on kids as young as kindergarten, pre-kindergarten. Katie has recently done work with kids of that age. We think it's so important to get that message out to children early, not only to learn how to respect other people, but also learn how they choose to be interacted with in the world, because kids have the right to their consent and body autonomy as well. Um, I was wondering, do you ever do any specific work like that with Boo Boo? Like, how do you speak to kids when you meet them and when you're doing work with them about, that language that you can use about consent and animals? I'd love for you to give our listeners maybe some tools that they can use when talking to their own kids or kids in their lives about consent when it comes to animals.
So when a lot of kids, when they see Boo Boo, they immediately want to go right into his face and pet him and grab his ears and all that. So I teach them like to come up to me first, ask, is it okay if I pet him? And then I tell them he doesn't like it when you go in his face. And to be able to tell them what works for Boo Boo, what Boo Boo's comfortable with, shows kids that you have to ask permission for consent and feel what they feel comfortable with. And I've seen this in a lot of schools that I go to, especially with the younger kids. They immediately go up to him and in his face, and I'm like, let's take a step back and let's ask first before we do that, because we want to make sure Boo Boo's happy and comfortable. And then sometimes they'll give Boo Boo a treat and they ask, is it okay to give him a treat? So just having kids ask permission and learn that for consent, you have to ask instead of just going up to Boo Boo and just expecting him to do what they want to do.
I think my animals have helped me teach my kids so much about boundaries and consent and body safety, especially like the nonverbal cues, right? Because they can't say yes or no. So you need to pay attention to their body language. Is their fur fluffed up? Are they trying to get away from you? Are they, walking up to you and trying to cuddle you? Or are they trying to walk away? And teaching your kids to pay attention to that, I think, is a really unique way to talk with kids about consent and body boundaries, especially the little ones, right? Because you're talking to them in a different way than you're going to talk to maybe high school or college students about it. So it's really, there's something really beautiful about watching a child develop a relationship with an animal. And in your book, letting that relationship also be healing for both sides. I also have 2 rescue dogs that were rescued from pretty rough situations. And so there was a lot of building trust with them as well. And it's really beautiful what you can build together. You talked about that a little bit earlier about how you had to help Boo Boo rebuild trust after that incident with the dog at the dog park. Can you talk about how rebuilding trust with Boo Boo in that incident is similar to how people can help survivors rebuild trust, whether that's, friends, educators, parents? How was that process with Boo Boo similar to a process when you're working as a social worker with kids who are also trying to rebuild trust?
So during that time, Boo Boo was really having a tough time going outside and wanting to go for a walk. So I noticed the things that he used to take pleasure in, like walking, playing. He was a lot more fearful after that. So I had to really go out of my way to bring him into different environments because he wasn't feeling safe on my street walking, which was his safety net before. So I would bring him into other locations, parks, hikes, different dog parks where he was exposed around different dogs. So I think that's like a similar message that could be spread for kids if they go through trauma. Maybe they don't feel comfortable going back to the area where their assault or where their trauma happened. So being able to maybe take them somewhere else and go on different walks and definitely meeting new friends, something that I highlighted in the book, that Boo Boo started making new friends. So once he had those friends, he had someone to rely on and someone to hang out with and make him feel happy. In the same way that when I was a survivor and I felt so alone and I didn't have anyone, I reached out to PAVE and I found Angela and Delaney, and I found that survivor community. In the same way Boo Boo found his community when he went to the dog park and was around positive people. So I think just surrounding yourself with positive people and in more positive situations after you go through a trauma can really help you heal from that.
That's what we always go back to, right? Chessy at I Have the Right To is community. I joined as the executive director almost 2 years ago, and that's what always fuels me is the community that Chessy and her family have built, because that's what we all need, right? We need people who can support us and be there for us and just, I don't know, go through this journey together. So is there anything you would like for survivors within that community to know, or anything specific for them that you just wish that maybe somebody would have said to you, or now having gone through that a bit that you'd like to share with them?
I think when I went through that, I didn't even because I have been an outspoken survivor of sexual assault for a while, but I didn't even think of it happening, like a girl doing that to me. And that was really traumatic in itself because I feel like after my assault, I had a lot of positive female relationships. And then having that happen really kind of confused me on my own self and my own journey a little bit. And it was really tough, but I think that I just want survivors in the LGBT community to know that they're not alone and that a lot of people might still go through that. And it was really tough.
It's so true. There is no such thing as like a blanket, victim or survivor. This, unfortunately, is something that affects all people, and of course, certain communities more than others. But it's something that everybody has a stake in, no matter what gender identity or sexual orientation we have. We all need to respect other people, and we all need to practice consent. And I just want to thank you so much, Jean, for sharing your story with us.
So, Jean, if for the young people listening right now, and if they've experienced something scary or painful or tough, what's some advice that you would give them, or what are some things that you would like them to know?
I just think stressing that they're not alone on this journey. And that's something that so many people feel when they go through all this trauma, is that they feel so alone during that time. And just me stressing that you're not alone. In the second that you start reaching out and getting help, you feel less alone, and you realize that you can get help on this journey and you're not alone on it, and other people are there for you. And being a social worker now and having clients come to me with extreme trauma, and just having Boo Boo there for support, and just letting them know that together we work together on this, and you're never going to feel alone like you once did. Once you start reaching out for help, you will feel better in your journey.
Yeah, I'm constantly in awe of you, Chessy, and you, Jean, of what you have done with your trauma and how you've helped so many people, because I know that it must not be easy. Chessy, I know it must not be easy hearing the stories that we hear every day with I Have the Right To. And I know, Jean, it probably is not easy going in and working with survivors of trauma, right? But you guys do it every single day, and you do it with such compassion and kindness, and you're really making such a difference. And so I just want to pause and just say thank you for that, because it really is making the world a better place, and it really is changing things for our kids to see people like you who've been through really tough things. And nobody would blame you if you never wanted to talk about it, or you never wanted to use your experience to help somebody. Like, that is not, something that survivors have to do. It's something that you choose to do. And it makes such a beautiful difference. And I know it also probably has a personal toll that comes with it. And so I just wanted to pause and say thank you to both of you, because I know that the people that you interact with, or even people that you don't interact with that just pick up your book, you're making such a difference for them. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and now that you've shared your message for young people, do you have a message for parents or educators, either based on your own experience or based on the work that you're doing now, or and based on your beautiful children's book? Do you have any advice or tools that you'd be able to share for parents and educators about starting conversations about trauma, helping the survivors in their lives going forward?
I think when I have a lot of clients that come into therapy, it seems like a lot of the time the parents they don't always want to talk about the trauma. But I think being able to talk about the trauma right away and have that animal companion with you, sometimes instead of just distracting yourself, you need to be able to talk about that to heal through it. So even starting that hard conversation, sometimes I'll tell them Boo Boo's story. I'll tell them what he went through, and just sharing that sometimes helps people open up. But for educators and parents, I just want them to know to believe their kids. When they come out and say they were assaulted or something like that happened to them, the best thing you could just do is believe them and support them, because that's something that a lot of people, when they go through a sexual assault, they don't feel. They may feel blamed for it, and they might feel really guilty about it. So just being there as a support system and working together can make all the impact.
Yeah, definitely. Just the reminders to them to support their kids and be there for their kids. And, if they have any furry friends around to help along that journey, that's always a great thing as well. So you mentioned that you're pursuing your master's in social work now, which is super exciting. I think you're pretty close to being done, right?
Yeah, so I finished that in May, so I'll be finished with that, and I'm going to continue my work at Soul Friends. So Soul Friends has been really amazing, because I never really knew a nonprofit animal-assisted therapy place existed. And to be able to see a therapy place that offers horses and rabbits and all different animals, and it's just been so much of a difference, because when I was younger and when I was going through therapy, I thought of therapy as this white room that you're in, and I never really felt comfortable in a therapist's office, because it just wasn't like homey feeling, but just this feeling of being there and having all these animals around you shows that you're not alone. You not only have your therapist and your parents' support, but you also have this animal there that is going to provide you unconditional love while you share your story, which might be really hard for a lot of people. But having that animal there, it just makes all the difference.
I remember my sister passed away 2 years ago, and a few weeks before she passed away, I was visiting her at the hospital, and there was somebody there with 2 therapy dogs walking in the halls. And I said, "Can you please go, visit my sister?" And I told them the room number, and they went up, and the dogs just jumped up in the bed and cuddled her, and it was just the sweetest thing ever. And honestly, I wish animal therapy was more available than it is. Like it's so special and so helpful that I hope it just becomes even more popular and it's available everywhere, because it really is so healing. So you're going to be working with soul friends. Is that your plan for after social work? Anything else that you're hoping to do with survivors, coming up?
So I'm working on 2 adult books. So one adult book that I'm working on is called Break the Chains, and Break the Chains deals with generational trauma that I've faced through when I was a kid up until now. And it really explores the role that generational trauma can have on families and how it can affect them. And then the other book I have, which I've been writing, which is called Beyond the Lights. So both of these books feature Boo Boo. I want Boo Boo to be like a repetitive character that I have in all of my books. But Beyond the Lights is about a social worker who takes on a case of a celebrity. And the celebrity at the time was found dead. And the social worker knows her story, that she was being stalked. So this story goes a lot into what childhood celebrities face and the trauma that they go through. So I've been doing a lot of research on that. And the story goes into the social worker and her dog investigating the case for themselves when the police don't want to investigate it.
Wow. Well, make sure to let us know once both of those are out. Maybe we can have you back and chat about them.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's so awesome also to see you turn your, pain and your trauma into something so artistic and helpful and beautiful. It's always awesome as well for me as like a creative person too, to watch other survivors pursue passion projects that aren't just centered on, the cold hard truth of our personal experience. I think we
Yeah.
deserve that sort of flexibility and freedom to be creative and play with these tough topics that so many people
Right.
connect through personal stories and through fictional stories. We all love movies, television. They help us feel things, they help us understand things. So it's really awesome to see you kind of flourish in that way. And speaking of taking your pain and turning it into something, so widely helpful, is there anything that makes you hopeful these days? Is there anything giving you hope?
I think just Boo Boo every single day, honestly, and just doing the work that I do. And every time that I go and do the therapy work that I do, last week, for example, I brought Boo Boo to a preschool, and the kids were just so excited to see him. And Boo Boo had the biggest smile on his face, and so did the kids. So I think just going into those environments and just seeing firsthand the difference that I'm making and how Boo Boo can just make anybody smile. I could be walking down the street and he'll smile at someone and they're smiling at him. So just being able to really make other people smile really gives me hope.
When you were talking about Boo Boo just being able to make people smile, and I was thinking about reading your book last night with my daughter Emerson, and she said, that she wanted you to come over and do crafts with her. And she, in the video, I'll have to send it to you, she gave you our address and said, "Can you come over with Boo Boo and do crafts?" But she also had a special question for Boo Boo. She wanted to know, does Boo Boo like to play hide and seek?
So that's really funny that you asked. So when I first started with Boo Boo, the reason that I figured out he was such a good therapy dog was through babysitting. So I would go babysitting with Boo Boo, and that was our favorite game to play. So we would play hide and seek. So the kids would go and hide, and I would have them hold like a treat up, and then Boo Boo would go and find them. And everyone has loved that game, and kids laugh as they find him, and it's super cute. And that's actually something that I also do at schools sometimes too. We'll play hide and seek in the classrooms.
That's so funny that she asked that, and it's actually one of Boo Boo's favorite games. So I'm glad that I asked that for her, and she will be so excited to hear that he loves that game. So every time we do an episode, we like to ask people at the end what I have the right to means to them. So when we go into schools, we often have students fill out an I have the right to pledge at the end of our sessions, and it can be, a variety of things, but just filling out that sentence of I have the right to, whether it's something that you want to, say that you have the right to, or something that you want young people to know they have the right to. So just what does I have the right to mean to you in this season of your life?
I'd say just I have the right to happiness, because for me, I feel like I struggled with that so long. I felt guilty for feeling happy after what happened to me, and I really went through a period of sadness. So I have the right to happiness and being able to spread that happiness to other people now. And through the work that I'm doing and seeing Boo Boo and just seeing how happy people are to see him and how more comfortable they are.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And for reminding us that healing doesn't have to happen alone. Whether it's through a trusted friend, a therapy dog, or a good book, your work shows us how connection and compassion can really make all the difference.
I just want to say how meaningful it is to reconnect after all these years. Seeing the way you've turned your experience into purpose, both for yourself and for so many others, is incredibly powerful. I know this conversation will stay with our listeners.
To everyone tuning in, we hope you'll check out Jean's book, Healing Your Boo Boo, and keep exploring how we can better support young people through trauma and growth with empathy, boundaries, and love. And remember, you have the right to. Thank you so much for listening. Like and subscribe to the podcast on all platforms. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends about Aspire, the I Have the Right To podcast. Visit IHaveTheRightTo.org to learn more about our programming for students, educators, and parents, as well as internship opportunities. And don't forget to follow us on social media at I Have the Right To. Until next time, stay empowered and keep the conversations going.